I'm enjoying quietude today, friends. So, what I'd like to offer is a meditation. Let's sit together. Let's close our eyes. Let's take 3 long, slow, deep breaths together. You may have noticed, if you've enjoyed any of my other videos, I don't tend to focus much on techniques, methods. I'm more interested in insight. This is not to paint techniques and methods as bad in any way. This has just always been my style, always been my focus. I was a conceptual thinker long before I was ever interested in wisdom practice. So then I was always interested in exploring these concepts as a means of going beyond concepts. Concepts like all language is made up. Therefore, whatever we say about this stuff is also made up. But we have to talk about it if we want to communicate it. So we do what we can with the tools we have. And language is a good tool. Language can point the way to this effortless well-being that I'm always talking about on this channel. Effortless well-being. When I first heard of the possibility that well-being could be effortless, I was hooked on that possibility. I'd been doing practices that were focused on cultivating well-being for years at that point. 2 or 3, I think. And then I heard a teaching by a wonderful teacher named Ziji Rinpoche, also known as Candice Odenva, who teaches in a Tibetan Dzogchen lineage. And I heard Ziji Rinpoche say things like, nothing need be done. Nothing need be done. That it is in fact all of our doing that obscures our natural well-being, our natural contentment, our natural clarity. And I thought to myself, well, I could continue efforting. I've gotten great results from this practice of cultivating, developing well-being. It's certainly wholesome. But what if Ziji Rinpoche is right? What if I actually don't have to do anything? And well-being is my birthright. Wow. I have to check that out. So I did. I learned to follow her instruction to rest naturally without seeking or describing anything. Rest naturally without seeking or describing anything. And I learned that this kind of instruction features in all teachings of non-duality, where it is said that rather than us having to whip ourselves into shape in order to be well, in order to be clear, in order to be free, in order to be happy. That actually these qualities are our birthright. So I looked for evidence of this in my direct experience. And I found it. And you can too, friends. It turns out that many, many thousands of practitioners have discovered that when they simply learn to let go of everything that they've been clinging to, including even what might be called spiritual practice, then they find that this freedom and clarity and peace and love, contentment, is their true nature. Now, this is not to say that deliberate practices of cultivation are not appropriate at times. For example, if I were to say to a drug addict, rest naturally without seeking or describing anything, that person is likely to just go and score and use again. That person may very well need something more tangible to replace their current harmful behaviors with. And we see this, don't we, in Alcoholics Anonymous, for example. Many attendees take up Christianity, take up prayer, take up worship as a new thing. It becomes their new thing. They drop their addiction and they go deep into Christianity. This is a good move. But it may be that once that person really has alcohol in the rearview mirror, that they start to get fed up with Christianity and all of its rules. That person might be ready to hear a teaching on non-duality. Conversely, there may be the case where a certain rare drug addict is ready to hear a profound spiritual instruction and it snaps them right out of their addiction. But this would be rare indeed. Typically, that individual who is suffering so greatly needs intervention in the first case. Then we can think about their spiritual journey. Then we can think about them hearing some teachings. And there is still, in a sense, a practice to be done when one takes up the path of non-duality. I say in a sense because we could call it the practice of non-practice, the practice of rest, the practice of accepting everything as it is. But more nuance here, friends. This doesn't mean we don't act when action is appropriate. In fact, we are more capable of action, but our action is responsive instead of reactive. Seeing the emptiness of all things, we're no longer seduced by them, no longer pushed and pulled around by them. We see that they never had any power. Not a single thing ever had the power to make us act a certain way. It only seemed that way due to interpretation. So I encourage you to consider this possibility that you were never broken, and thus don't have to build up good qualities in yourself, but rather they are your birthright, they are your default mode. And the well-being, the happiness, the clarity, the freedom, the peace that you've been seeking is right here. Not just under your nose, it's more intimate than that. It's what remains in the absence of all clinging, of all wishing, of all desiring, of all describing, of all seeking. Even spiritual seeking, in the end, has to go, so that you arrive precisely here to see that this, as it is perfect. If all of this is easy for you to hear, you are profoundly fortunate, friend. If it's difficult for you to grasp, to understand, you're not alone. But I will keep sending this message. So if you only keep coming back to listen to these videos, if you feel that there is something here for you, then do return. Keep hearing these messages, and they will lead you to that effortless well-being.